I was 16 when I started working at the shop. Back then, it was nothing more than a dusty warehouse on the edge of town. Concrete floors, flickering fluorescent lights, and shelves stacked so high with cardboard boxes they looked ready to collapse with a single breath. Dad called it a humble beginning. I called it home. While my friends spent weekends at parties or on road trips, I was managing pallets, answering phones, and learning every inch of that place like the back of my hand. Every process, every spreadsheet, every late night working to make things smoother. That was me. At first, Dad noticed. He'd ruffle my hair and say, "You're sharper than most of the guys I hire, Lil." And that meant something. It was rare for him to say anything that wasn't soaked in sarcasm. Then there was Derek, my older brother. 3 years older, all charm and chaos. The golden boy. While I was breaking my back in the warehouse, he was flunking out of one expensive college after another. Still, Dad never judged him the way he judged me. "He'll come around," Dad would say. "He just needs time." But me? I didn't get time. I got responsibility. By the time I turned 25, our modest supply hub had grown into a full-fledged distribution company. Regional contracts, millions in revenue. I had built our customer service team from scratch, digitized our entire operation, and streamlined the mess into a machine. Revenue had soared 28%. The company was now worth $60 million. And yet, I was still just helping out. No title, no salary, no equity, just the daughter. I stayed, because I thought my loyalty would matter. That eventually, Dad would see me for who I really was. Not just the kid who worked hard, but the woman who built the damn company. Then came Friday. We were in the conference room, me, Dad, and Derek. No warning, no lead-up. Dad just sipped his coffee and said it, as casually as if he was announcing lunch plans. Starting next quarter, Derek's taking over client relations and strategic growth. I blinked. That's my role. Derek just shrugged, lounging, like a king in a chair he hadn't earned. "Time to step aside, Lil." He smirked. "You're kind of worthless now." The words cut, but not because I believed them, because he did. Because Dad did. I turned to my father, just hoping he'd correct him. He didn't. He just nodded. "It's for the best." That moment is burned into me. Derek's smug smile, my father's cold indifference, the realization that they had written me off, just like that. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I stood, gathered my things, and walked out. But as I closed that door, I made a silent promise. They thought I'd go quietly. They had no idea what was coming. Monday morning. Same. Office. Same street. But I wasn't the same. I walked through the front doors with my head high. My name still meant something to the people there. I could see it in the glances, the awkward nods. "She's here. Didn't she quit?" I didn't stop. I wasn't back to make noise. I was back to finish what I started. In my bag, a folder. Inside, documents, email threads, contracts, signatures, evidence, not revenge, precision. I opened my computer and unlocked a document Dad had forgotten, or maybe had hoped I had. Employee Equity Memorandum, Jan 3, 2016. Signed by Dad back when we were struggling, it detailed a 22% equity transfer to me in lieu of salary. "You'll get your recognition one day," he said. "This is just temporary." That temporary had lasted 9 years. And then there was the other 18%, left to me by my mother. Quiet, unspoken, legal, combined. I was now the largest shareholder in the company, 40%. At 10 a.m., I requested an emergency board meeting. 10 minutes later, Dad stormed into my office with Derek right behind him. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Dad snapped. "Taking care of unfinished business," I replied calmly. Derek scoffed. "You left. Everyone saw it. That means you stepped down." I turned my screen so they could see the document. Dad leaned in, squinting. This was supposed to be temporary. You never put an expiration date on it. And what does this change? Derek asked, less sure now. I slid the folder across the desk. Everything. Inside, legal confirmations, emails, and most importantly, a shareholder vote notice. I've already contacted the board, I said. They'll convene in 30 minutes. We're going to vote. Dad looked at me like I was someone he'd never met. Derek just sat there, stunned. But I wasn't done being overlooked. Not anymore. In the boardroom, I took the seat at the head of the table. My father cleared his throat. Before we start, we're not here for clarification, I cut in. We're here for a vote. I projected the proposal on screen. Leadership, realignment vote. I stated the facts, 40% equity, 12 years of building this company, the operations, the contracts, the growth, all under my watch. And finally, I'm not stepping aside. The room went still. Elaine Chambers, a senior board member, leaned forward. What are you proposing, Lily? A vote, one item. Who leads this company moving forward? And if you lose? Another asked. Then I sell my shares, all 40%, to a competitor. Gasps. Derek sat upright. You wouldn't. I looked at him. I would. And I will. Silence. Then Elaine said, I vote Lily Harper as CEO. One by one, the votes came in. Final count, Lily Harper, 6. James Harper, 2. I exhaled. Dad didn't say a word. He stood, straightened his jacket, and walked out. No eye contact, no goodbye. Derek sat, stunned, still trying to process the shift in gravity. I looked at him and said, You said I was worthless. And then I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the company I had built, now finally, officially mine. And that was just the beginning. I blinked, leaned in, and said calmly, I just proved otherwise. Then I turned and walked out of the boardroom, no longer the helper, the daughter, the silent one behind the scenes. For the first time, I walked out as the one in charge. The vote was over, but the real battle had just begun. By Tuesday morning, the entire company knew. The usual hum of conversation in the office turned hushed when I passed. Some employees watched me wide-eyed like I'd pulled off a corporate coup. Others looked away, unsure where their loyalties now belonged. I understood. These people had worked under my father's rule for decades. They'd seen Derek, my brother, strut through the halls like a CEO in waiting. I had always been the quiet force behind the curtain, the one solving problems, fixing chaos. Now I was the face of the company, and they didn't know what to make of it. Still, I showed up, early, like always. I greeted the receptionist, stopped by operations, replied to emails before most had even logged in. Because leadership isn't about titles, it's about consistency, especially when people doubt you. That afternoon, I found a note under my office door. One line in rushed block letters. You think this is over. It's not. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. Derek. I folded the note and slid it into the back of my notebook. Let him rage. Let him scheme. What he didn't understand was that I didn't win by manipulating. I won by preparing, by showing up when it mattered, by doing the work he never bothered with. But Derek wasn't the only one struggling with what happened. That evening, as I sat reviewing quarterly projections, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. Lily, he said, his voice tired. I want to talk, face to face. Come to the house, please. The word please caught me off guard. I hadn't heard it from him in years. I arrived just after 9 p.m. The porch light cast a soft glow on the steps. I used to love that house. It had felt big, warm, safe. Now it felt like a relic of everything unsaid. He was waiting in the kitchen with a glass of whiskey. He didn't stand when I entered. I heard about the vote, he said. You were there? I replied. He nodded. You embarrassed me. I raised an eyebrow. You tried to erase me. He looked older, grayer, more weathered. His shoulders slumped like someone finally carrying the weight of their own denial. You were never supposed to take it this far, he said. No, I said. I was never supposed to fight back. You're my daughter. I thought you understood the plan. What plan? Derek was always going to lead. That was the expectation. You were meant to support him. You're good at that. The words burned, not because they were shocking, but because I'd always feared they were true. I built this company, I said, voice trembling. I stayed when the lights were about to go out. I closed our first major supplier deal. I kept it afloat when you couldn't. And still, I was just, support? Silence. You chose him, I whispered. Even when he gave nothing and I gave everything. He looked away. He's my son. And I'm your daughter, I snapped. But that was never enough, was it? Silence stretched between us until finally he spoke.